I'm going to summarize an entire D&D session in just 3 words. Are you ready? No one died. No, but seriously, if I were to use 3 words to summarize last night's session, then those words would be, in no uncertain order, handouts, laboratory, and apprentices. Let's go through those one by one. So, handouts, first of all. There were a lot of them. A surprising number of them. It was a bank holiday in the UK yesterday. So, yeah, you could tell the DM had a bit more time to prep. Actual handouts we were given here, 4 of them to be precise. Also, I forgot to mention in my last week's recap, because I was so hung up on the death of my character, we got a couple of handouts then as well, so I'll very quickly mention those. When we first came down to the 2nd floor, where we are now, we heard this voice calling in our heads. I was dead at the time, so this is probably why I forgot about it. The voice was from a lady called Jessira Kettleharp. I think that's how you say it, Kettleharp. And she said, "Greetings, adventurers. I am Jessira Kettleharp. You've been chosen to delve into the depths of Undermountain, a place of both peril and promise. Alistair Blackcloak's madness threatens our world, and only by navigating these treacherous halls can you uncover the truth. Ancient secrets and untold dangers await. Are you ready to face the challenge and forge your destiny within the dungeon of the Mad Mage?" So it's a little bit like... It's a little bit like she's pitching it to us, you know? It's kind of like the blurb you'd get on the back of a book, or, I don't know, before you go into like an escape room or something. But yeah, anyway, that's how she spoke to us, which is quite funny. I'm just going to imagine her running an escape room now. She's just like standing, selling tickets outside. "Ah, come in, people off the streets. Yeah, you take on the challenges within." Yeah, she's a carnival barker, isn't she? But regardless, that was one of the things that happened last week. I also, if you remember, I encountered somebody who was chained up as a prisoner. They were completely naked, and in exchange for me freeing them, they told me that they would give me a map. We don't talk about where that map came from, but I do now have a map of the 3rd floor of the dungeon, which is pretty cool. So hopefully that will come in handy later. And the other thing, the final thing that we got, was just before going downstairs, we found a very interesting pictorial representation of the entire dungeon, of all 20-something floors of the dungeon. Almost like a mall map you'd get, you know, where it's saying what's on each floor and where you can find, like, where you can buy shoes from or whatever. And indeed, there was this mall map, basically, of the Mad Maze, as I'm calling it. So that was good as well. So those are the handouts from last session. And it did not stop. The handouts, they started coming and they just kept coming. So let's go on. So the session started, as I mentioned, we were straight into combat. At the end of the last session, our Goliath friend, the barbarian, who currently looks like a handsome human, and whose name is Kronos. I keep forgetting to say that. His name is Kronos. And he has a habit of just interacting with everything fearlessly. And so he just knocked on all the pots and pans, and lo and behold, a spectre appeared, and the pots and pans came to life. And so we were fighting them. I was very nervous going into this because, of course, I'm -4 on everything, all ability checks, all saving throws, all attack rolls, because I've just come back from the dead. So I was very nervous going into it, playing it very cagey, very cautious. But in the end, actually, it turned out fine, and I was far more effective if I just hit things, or tried to, than if I was trying to play clever with like spells. I think I tried like 3 times this session to pull off Fairy Fire. Didn't work a single time. Whereas rolling to hit, hey, I rolled 3 nat 20s last session, so there you go. Sometimes the dice are just on your side, and they just want you to hit things. Listen to the dice. So yeah, so we got through that, and it turned out we were kind of in a what can be best described as like a student bedsit. It was very dirty. These pots and pans, burnt ramen in them. You know, you go into the bedsit. I sat on the bed, and it's like got empty bottles inside. We spent ages trying to get a chest open inside this room. Absolutely ages. Of course, it was trapped. Of course, Kronos, our Goliath, interacted with it and electrocuted himself. But in doing so, we managed to eventually get it open, and we got this handout, which says, "Retirement Fund. Do not spend this on booze, Calabash." Which tells us two things. One, he did indeed spend it all on booze. So we have an alcoholic on our hands. But the other thing it told us is that the guy's name was Calabash, which, thanks to us sharing secrets before, we knew that that was one of the apprentices. So clearly this bedsit that we were in, that was his domain, as it were. And there was also underneath the carpet a summoning circle. We left that underneath the carpet, and we took a long rest, which was very nice. I'm now at -3 to everything. Huzzah! So the next day, we kept on moving. During the night, while we were long resting, I had a bit of a flashback to my period of being dead. And despite the fact that I was only dead for a few hours of in-game time, I suddenly remember that I was in that waiting room. If you remember, after I died, I was kind of like in a waiting room. You know, it wasn't my time. And so I was just sat there waiting for my time. And I was there for a very, very long time. Much longer than I realized. And I remember someone coming to me at some point and bathing me. And despite the fact that I'm a smelly dwarf that doesn't like being bathed, I was fine with it and found it quite comforting. Didn't see who it was that was bathing me. Mysteries. The plot thickens. I love it. Anyway, yeah, the DM is all in on the fact that this is like a character shifting, defining moment, moving me into my multi-class of cleric or druid of the grave. Absolutely great. He's loving it. So I'm liking that as well. We're using this as an opportunity for growth for Gorn. It was also an opportunity for a bit of fun roleplay with the other character in the group that I've not talked about very much. His name is Tarmin, and he is a half-orc fighter/barbarian. But what's quite funny is he thinks that he is a paladin, and every single time he goes into a rage, he thinks that's a divine smite. So it's quite funny. He's constantly praying to Bahamut, the platinum dragon. He's constantly calling upon this deity of his and playing it like a stereotypical paladin, but not the smartest in the brain department. So clearly not realizing that they're just hitting things really hard. But I like it. It's fun. And of course, the fact that I've come back from the dead, you know, his character's a bit miffed by all of this, and I woke up from this long rest very much like, I thought I was still dead. And yeah, we had a nice little bit of role play there where he was praying to his god to try and to heal me, and I'm on that border between being undead and alive, and I'm clearly I've got necrosis on my skin. I'm kind of rotten a little bit. I'm not pleasant to look at. So yeah, nice little bit of role play that happened there, which was quite fun. And then we moved on, and this is where my second keyword of laboratories came in. So we were just going from laboratory to laboratory, but the next one we went into was much better equipped. There was definitely a smell of death in the room, smell of formaldehyde and all of those good things, and I was getting a real sense. Apparently I've picked up a spider sense now of the undead. It's ever since coming back from the dead, I've developed this compass pointing ability to pick out where undeath is. Pretty sure that's actually a class feature of the paladin, but whatever, I can do it for free. Ha ha ha! Joke's on you, Carmen. You're not even a real paladin, you faker. I can do it for free. So anyway, where am I? Yeah, we get through this laboratory, and we find in front of us, at one point, we managed to find a couple more notes in this room, one of which is deliberately very difficult to read, but the part that we can read says, "At last, Alastor has given me access to the copper mine. Finally, now I have everything I need for my experiments." Very interesting. And the other one says, "I no longer trust the other apprentices. What they see as mysticism I know to be science. I can't stand their incantations and mutterings any longer. If any of them try to intrude on my lab again, they're in for a truly shocking surprise." So, putting 2 and 2 together there, the lab is clearly trapped in some way. Shocking surprise. Copper. Something going on here. But, you know, whatever. We now have samples of this person's handwriting, and presumably this is one of the apprentices of the Mad Mage, which is really, really nice. Halaster, that's his name. I keep forgetting him. So maybe if someone's proficient at forgery at some point, that could come in handy. So we're keeping it for the time being. But yes, so we, armed with this knowledge, we then came across a door which was clearly made of metal. And I was getting a very strong pull in that direction, that I needed to deal with something undead. Okay, so I obeyed the pull, and we went in that direction. Of course, the door would electrocute anybody that went near it, and we knew this because our Goliath Kronos went near it and got electrocuted. Well done. He's like the canary down the coal mine for our party. You know, it's very useful. So the rest of us then were thinking, well, how can we get through? We ended up just cheesing this puzzle. We went all the way back to the Goblin Market, purchased some vials of acid and alchemical fire, went all the way back again, and just threw it at the door. And it just ate through, and just, there you go, we can get through now. And we found ourselves in a room beyond, which, the floor of which was completely covered in copper plating and just crackling with electricity everywhere. And in the room there were 2 things, one of which was a flesh golem, another one, and behind them was a flaming skull. But quite interestingly, this flaming skull was crackling with electricity, and it was from the flaming skull that the electricity in the room was emanating, which is really interesting. I really like it in D&D when they take like a known quantity or a known monster type and just tweak like one little element of it to make it, to kind of put it on its head. I always find that really interesting. Standing on a plate of metal which is crackling with electricity would be a ludicrously stupid thing to do. You should just stand in the doorway, surely, and just fire from a distance. You'd have to be crazy to just run in, you know, pedal to the metal and just swinging at the nearest thing you find. So our Goliath Kronos just ran in, pedal to the metal, swinging at anything that he found. He got very badly hurt in the process. Tarmin followed. He also got very badly hurt and got knocked unconscious, but did not die because we were able to bring down both the flesh golem and the flaming, not flaming, really electrical skull in one go. And we were able to then revive Tarmin when he was just only on 2 failed death saves. It was fine. We cheesed that one. It was all right. So that was done. What was then very interesting was we decided to have a short rest in this room, and at that moment, the DM asked us to roll an Arcana check. None of us are proficient in Arcana, but I should point out because of the minus debuffs on my character, because I came back from the dead, I have been I've been casting Enhance Ability like constantly on myself, so that I can kind of, because so then I'm constantly rolling either Intelligence or Wisdom at advantage. And so in this case, I was able to roll intelligence at advantage, which is very useful because even with a -3, I got a nat 20. And so I was told this flaming skull in about an hour's time is going to come back to life unless you can do something about it. So we were like, oh no. What can we do about it? Well, the options are we can either cast Dispel Magic or Dispel Curse. Can't do that. Or pour some holy water over it. Don't have any of that, and we're not clerics. What do we do with this flame skull? So in the end, I said, you know what? I'm going to take this flame skull, and I'm going back to the Goblin Market again. I'm so glad we didn't completely destroy it last session. So we go back to the Goblin Market, and I just run in, and I'm just like, I need some holy water, and I need it real quick and cheap. Give it to me cheap. And everyone's just like, they don't like us very much now down there, and they're super marking up everything. Everything is like really pricey, and they're like, that'll be like 100 gold pieces. And I'm like, you're giving it to me for free. You see this flame skull? Give it to me for free right now. It's coming back to life, and it will kill you all. That was an intimidation check. The DM let me have that for free, as he also allowed us to get the holy water for free. Pour that over the flame skull. Flame skull is now gone. However, I'm pretty sure that Goblin Market, we're going to be blacklisted from that before too long if we're not careful. So anyway, that was fun. And in this room, in the corner of the room, there was a chute which went down. We decided to go down the chute. We found at the bottom a gibbering mouther. That's another combat. We're really getting whittled down here, but we didn't die. We got really close. Gibbering mouth are gone. And then we ended up in a very large room, clearly dwarven made, beautiful stoneworking, stone masonry all around the place. Very well made dwarven hall, which I was very happy about. Liked being down there, you know. Got to roleplay a bit more about my past. I'm just like, oh yeah, this reminds me of the work that Dopey used to do. You know, he's a bit stupid in the brain department, but he sure knows how to make things out of stone. Yeah, my friends are the other 6 dwarves. Don't think about it. So anyway, we go through this room, and eventually we find this massive barricade. Barricade is made of dead hobgoblins. They've just been piled on top of each other. That's not good. Barricades are never good. So we decide to send over my flies, because I've got beast sense as a ranger. I send over my flies. I'm just like investigating what's beyond. I can't see anything. So we decide to climb on over the barricade of dead bodies. Nothing wrong with that. And we find ourselves in a room beyond. We keep walking. We find like an area of with a couple of like wash basins to get clean, or to get drinking water if you want it. I decided to use that moment to freshen up a little bit. I know that's not what Gorn in session 1 would have done, but this is session 6, baby. And Gorn is a new man, come back from the dead. What? He is in love with Snow White / not Snow White, Bolene, and he was very much like bit of water, splash, 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 bit of water, combing back the hair. All right, trying to make himself a bit nicer. Unscragging the beard a little bit. Anyway, we find ourselves in the room beyond. There are 4 Nothics in that room, and they attack us, and that's where we ended things. And they attacked us. They attacked Kronos because, of course, he was in the first place, and he took like a lot of damage with their withering gaze. So, yeah, I have a feeling that's going to be a tough combat to start next session with, but that's next week's problem. This week, no one died. And as I said, handouts galore, so many of them. We also, what was the other thing? Laboratories. so many of those. And the other word I had was apprentices, because we found 2 of them. First of all, there was the one who was the alcoholic that had spent all of his money. The DM told us afterwards that had we interacted with the summoning circle in any way, we would have summoned a very drunk apprentice wizard. We didn't, but that was one of them. Thank goodness. We didn't do that. And then the other one, which we also avoided, which we defeated, was that flame skull. And that was one of the other apprentices. So that's 2 apprentices down. There's what, 6 on this level? Yeah, we're doing great. We're doing great. So that was the session. Very fun, very enjoyable. Not sure what else to say really. It's getting increasingly to the point now, I think, where we're starting to settle as a party into something that looks kind of like our final shape. I'm pretty sure a couple of us will die a few more times. We do have 2 barbarians in the party, that and a ranger. We were very melee focused this session. We do need a spellcaster, but party composition is whatever. The important thing is I think we're all kind of settling into how we're playing. The player that was playing as Kronos, he wasn't feeling too hot. He was a bit under the weather, so he was a bit quiet yesterday. But it was still a really, really good time, and we seem to be progressing faster through this floor than the one above, which was a slog. This one seems to be a bit more very combat focused. You can't take 2 steps without rolling initiative, but it's not too bad. So long may that continue, and long may our reign of not dying also continue. I think this is actually the first session in which no one died. Huzzah. Surely level up can't be too far away now.